The Minister for Social Services. Will the Minister update the House on the benefits to the aged care sector of the landmark Australia-China Free Trade Agreement, and are there any risks to this approach?
I call the Minister for Social Services.
Well, thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank my colleague from the Shire. Because, like me, we're optimistic about many things. We're optimistic about a great turn of the Sharks over the Rabbits on the weekend, but we're also optimistic about the tremendous free trade agreement, the export agreement, the China export agreement, Mr Speaker, which is a visionary document. It's a visionary document, Mr Speaker, because Australia is not alone when it comes to having an ageing population. 8.5% of the Chinese population currently is aged over 65. And by 2050, Mr Speaker, almost 24% of the Chinese population will be over the age of 65. Now, that'll be actually more than in this country here, Mr Speaker. Now, for those who are aged over 80 in China, Mr Speaker, there is around 23 million now, almost the population of this country, and by 2050 it will be more than 90 million. So what a visionary document. A visionary document that put into the agreement that Australian service suppliers can establish profit-making aged care institutions throughout China. For the information of the Leader of the Opposition, that's a service that we weren't selling before and can be achieved by a free trade agreement, an export agreement with China. We are well positioned, Mr Speaker, to capitalise on the China ageing boom, just like we are in this country, Mr Speaker, because what we have is here in this country the facilities, the expertise, the experience, and particularly being able to deliver services to multicultural communities, particularly Chinese communities here in Australia, and our providers are ready to sell, Mr Speaker. They are ready to sell, whether it's our educational institutions that can sell the training services, whether it's those in the architects and the development of facilities that can sell those services into China, whether it's those who are planning the facilities and all of this, Mr Speaker. These are the opportunities that are realised by this visionary document, and it's been described by the aged care sector as a massive opportunity. A massive opportunity. So why, Mr Speaker? Why, when there's such a massive opportunity, would someone want to stand in the way of our aged care service providers and associated industries from taking advantage of this massive ageing boom from China? Well, I tell you who stands in the way, Mr Speaker. It's the Leader of the Opposition and those opposite. And they do so at the behest of the trade union movement. This Leader of the Opposition, who uses the trade union movement like an ATM, Mr Speaker, he uses it like an ATM to fund their policies, to fund their initiatives, to fund their campaigns, and here he is the trade union's muppet, Mr Speaker. He is the trade union's muppet who will go to their call on every single occasion. Here's another muppet.
The Minister will resume his seat. The member for Charlton on a point of order.
Point of order.
Members on my left and right. Member for Charlton resume his seat. Member for Charlton.
Mr Speaker, Standing Order number 90, reflections on other members. That's clearly a reflection on the Leader, and I ask him to withdraw.
I'll call the Minister. I'd prefer he didn't use that language, and it'd assist the House if he'd withdraw.
I withdraw, and I thank Beaker over there for his interjection. Mr Speaker.
The Minister will withdraw.
I withdraw, Mr Speaker.
The Minister resume his seat. Minister resume his seat. The Minister resume his seat. Minister resume his seat. He doesn't have the call. Minister resume his seat. The member for McEwen was seeking my call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The clock failed to start at the start of the Minister's answer, which allowed him an extra 30
Members on
seconds.
my right will cease interjecting. Member for Herbert is warned. That was right, I saw that. The member for McEwen might want to hear the answer. The clerks adjusted the time midway through the answer. No, I saw them adjust it. I saw them adjust it, and I can see with my peripheral vision, member for McEwen, the clerk nodding his head. The Minister has 8 seconds.
Mr Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition stands in the way of an historic opportunity on the China export agreement, one that will deliver massive opportunities for this country
The Minister's
and
time
more
has
jobs.
expired.